Amy Frost knew she was the last of her kind in these woods, her long pointed ears always alert to danger as she moved silently through the ancient trees. The morning sun filtered through the leaves, casting dappled light on the forest floor. Two small dragons, Spark and Ember, flew above her, occasionally diving down to perch on her shoulders. Their scales shimmered in the light red for Ember, with hints of gold and blue for Spark with silver edges. 300 years she had guarded these woods, 300 years of watching the human cities grow closer. 300 years of losing more of her kin to war, disease, or simple despair as their lands shrank. Amy refused to leave. This forest was her home, the place where she had been, born where her mother had taught her the old magic, where the dragons had chosen her as their friend. The dragons were young, barely 50 years old, still playful and curious. They had hatched from eggs. Amy found abandoned in a cave high in the mountains. She had cared for them, singing the old songs to help them grow strong. Now they were her family, her only companions in a world that seemed to have forgotten that elves ever existed. Amy stopped at the edge of a small stream to drink. The cool water refreshed her as she cupped it in her hand. Spark landed beside her, dipping his blue snout into the water while Ember kept watch from a nearby branch. The small red dragon was always more cautious, more protective. A sound caught her attention. The dragons heard it too, their bodies suddenly tense. Spark flew up to join Ember, both of them, alert wings spread slightly, ready to flee or fight. Humans, Amy whispered, her green eyes narrowing. She could smell them now, a scent of metal and strange chemicals that always clung to the humans of this age. She slipped behind a large oak tree, motioning for the dragons to hide in the branches above her. She reached for her bow, made from wood so old it had turned almost black with age. The arrows in her quiver were tipped with stone, not metal. Amy had never embraced human ways, preferring the crafts her people had used for thousands of years. The humans came into view, 3 of them wearing strange clothes with many pockets and carrying devices that beeped and flashed. 2 women and 1 man. Amy watched them carefully. These were not hunters or loggers she had dealt with before. These humans moved differently, studied the trees and plants, took samples of water and soil. The taller woman had dark skin and hair cut very short. She carried a tablet that she kept looking at, then back at the trees. The second woman was smaller, with light brown hair pulled back. She seemed to be collecting leaves and bark samples. The man, tall with a beard, was taking pictures with a small device. There's definitely something unusual about this forest, the dark-skinned woman said, looking at her tablet. The readings are off the charts. It's almost like the trees themselves are generating some kind of energy field. The smaller woman nodded. I told you, Lily. This place is special. My grandmother used to tell stories about these woods, said they were protected by forest spirits. The man laughed. Spirit stories are cute, but we're scientists. We need data, not folklore. Amy felt anger rise in her chest. These humans with their machines and science, thinking they knew everything when they understood nothing of the old ways. The dragons sensed her emotion. Ember let out a small growl that made the humans look up suddenly. Did you hear that? The man asked. Probably just a bird, the woman called Lily said. But she looked nervous now, glancing around at the trees. Amy knew she should stay hidden, should let these humans take their samples and leave. But something made her step forward. Perhaps it was pride. Perhaps it was loneliness. Perhaps it was simply time for humans to remember they were not alone in this world. The dragon stayed in the tree as Amy stepped into the clearing, her bow lowered but visible. The humans gasped, the man dropping his camera. Oh my God, the smaller woman whispered. Amy stood tall, her silver hair catching the sunlight, her green eyes bright against her pale skin, her pointed ears clearly visible. It's been a long time since humans came to study my forest. The humans stared in shock, unable to speak. Finally, Lily, the taller woman, took a step forward. You're real, she said, her voice shaking a little. Are you an elfamy? Nodded once. My name is Amy Frost. I am the guardian of these woods. I have watched over them for 300 years. The smaller woman stepped forward too. I knew it. My grandmother wasn't making up stories. She said she met one of your kind when she was a little girl. She said you saved her when she got lost in these woods. Amy studied the woman more carefully. Yes, I remember a human child many seasons ago. She was small with yellow hair and blue eyes. That's her, the woman said excitedly. Megan, Harper. My grandmother was Rose. The memories came back to Amy now, a small, human girl crying lost in the rain. She had led the child back to the edge of the forest where human searchers were calling her name. The girl had turned and hugged her legs in thanks before running to her family. Amy had not spoken to her, had not revealed herself, fully thinking the child would forget or believe she had imagined the encounter. I never thought, the woman continued. I'd never believed I'd actually meet you. She pulled out a small leather pouch from around her neck. My grandmother gave me this before she died, said it was a gift from the forest spirit who saved her. Amy recognized the small carving, a dragon made from wood. She had given it to the girl as a comfort to stop her tears. I made this, she said softly. The man was still, staring in disbelief. This can't be real, he muttered. The dragons chose that moment to make their appearance, flying down from the tree to land one on each of Amy's shoulders. Their presence caused another round of gasps and exclamations. And those are? The smaller woman, Megan, asked, her eyes wide with wonder. My friends, Amy replied, Spark and Ember. She stroked Spark's head gently. The blue dragon preened under the attention, while Ember kept his golden eyes fixed suspiciously on the humans. Why have you come to my forest? Lily finally found her voice. We work for the Environmental Protection Agency. We're studying old growth forests, trying to document them to protect them from development. Amy considered this. These humans wanted to protect the forest that was new. Most humans she had encountered wanted to cut down trees or hunt or build. Their goals had always been at odds with hers. Perhaps, Amy said slowly, we should talk. The humans followed Amy through the forest, their eyes wide with wonder, as she led them deeper into her realm than any human had been in centuries. Spark and Ember flew ahead, occasionally returning to circle Amy, as if checking that she was safe. Lily and Megan walked close together, while the man who had introduced himself as Paul kept a slight distance behind, still looking unsure about the whole situation. Amy moved with the grace of someone who knew every root, stone, and branch in these woods. Where she stepped, no twigs broke, no leaves rustled. The humans, however, seemed to crash through the underbrush despite their efforts to move quietly. We need to talk about the threat to this forest, Amy said after they had walked for nearly an hour. A threat I cannot fight alone. What threat? Lily asked. The only development plans we know about were stopped when our agency designated this area for protection. Amy shook her head, looking up at the sky through the canopy of leaves. It's not from your world, it's from beyond the stars. She pointed upward. A great rock is coming. It will destroy everything if it strikes the earth. Paul laughed nervously. Look, Amy, I know you probably don't keep up with modern science, but we have systems that track asteroids and comets. We would know if something was going to hit Earth. Amy stopped and turned to look at him, her green eyes seeming to glow slightly in the dappled forest light. I have ways of knowing things that your science does not. Understand, the dragons know too. They have been restless for weeks now. They feel it coming. Megan stepped forward curiously. How do you know about it? The old magic. Amy said simply, I can see beyond what human eyes can see. I can hear the warnings in the wind and water. She raised her hand palm up and whispered words in a language none of the humans recognized. A small globe of light formed above her palm, showing what looked like the night sky, with a bright object moving across it. The humans, gasped Lily. Pulled out her tablet, quickly typing notes. Paul just stared, his scientific skepticism clearly shaken. If there's really something coming, Lily said slowly, why not just leave the forest? Go somewhere safe. Amy looked at her sadly. This forest is the last of its kind, a place where the old magic still lives strong in the earth. I cannot abandon it. If it dies, I die with it. She stroked Ember's head as the red dragon landed on her shoulder. And where would my friends go? Dragons cannot hide among humans, as I sometimes can. They continued walking until they reached a massive oak tree. Its trunk was wider than any tree the humans had ever seen, its branches creating a canopy that covered an area the size of a small field. At the base of the tree was an opening, a doorway into the trunk itself. "Welcome to my home," Amy said, leading them inside. The interior was larger than seemed possible from outside, carved into a series of rooms with smooth wooden walls. Soft light came from globes that hung from the ceiling with no visible power source. Small carved furniture filled the space shelves of books, and strange objects lined the walls. There was a feeling of age to everything, as if the home had stood for countless centuries. Dragons immediately flew to perches carved into the wall, settling in comfortable spots they clearly used. Often, Megan spun around, slowly taking it all in. "This is amazing," she whispered. Amy gestured to a table with chairs. "Please sit. We have much to discuss." She moved to a shelf and took down an ancient book bound in leather. The pages crackled as she opened it, revealing strange symbols and diagrams. "According to my people's records, this has happened before. A star rock falling to Earth. Long ago, before humans built cities, my ancestors worked with dragons to create a shield of magic that deflected such a rock." Paul leaned forward despite his skepticism. "How exactly does magic deflect an asteroid?" Amy looked at him patiently. "It's not magic as you think of it in your stories. It's the energy of life itself. The connection between all living things, concentrated and directed. It's a science your people once knew but have forgotten." She turned the page, showing a diagram of what appeared to be a network of lines crossing the land. "These are the ley lines, the currents of power that flow through the earth. They are strongest here in this forest, which is why my people protected this place for so long, why I remain." She traced a line on the page. "My ancestors built stones of power at key points where the lines cross. They used these to channel energy to create a shield. But most of those stones are gone now, destroyed or moved by humans over the centuries. I cannot create a shield strong enough with what remains." Lily looked thoughtful. "You said your ancestors worked with dragons. What role did they play?" Amy smiled for the first time. "Dragons are creatures of fire and sky. They can connect the earth energy to the heavens." She looked at Spark and Ember. "But my friends are young. Their power is not fully grown. We would need more dragons." Or what?" Megan asked. Amy hesitated. "Something to amplify their power. Something that could connect to the remaining power stones and strengthen the connection." Paul snapped his fingers, suddenly excited. "Wait. A moment ago you called it the energy of life. A connection between living things. That sounds like what we would call a field, an energy field. I study electromagnetic fields." He pulled out his own tablet, scrolling through files. "We might be able to build something that could detect and maybe even amplify whatever energy you're talking about." Amy looked skeptical. "It took my ancestors years to craft the power stones. Your human machines could do this in days." Paul nodded enthusiastically. "That's the beauty of technology. We might not understand the underlying principles as well as your people did, but we can build things quickly. Especially if you can show us what to look for." Lily was already typing on her tablet. "If this asteroid is real, we need to alert our agency, get more scientists here, equipment." "No," Amy said sharply. "No more humans. The three of you I trust because of Megan's grandmother, because the dragons sense you mean no harm. But more humans would bring danger. They would try to take me away, study my friends." She gestured to the dragons, who were watching the conversation intently. "But we need help." Lily protested. Amy shook her head firmly. "We have little time. The star rock comes in 7 days. We must work with what we have." She looked at Paul. "Do you truly believe you can build a machine to detect the old energy?" He nodded slowly. "I think so. Especially if you can show me what to look for, what it's supposed to do." Amy closed the book and stood. "I will show you the remaining power stones. They still hold some of the old magic. You can study them. Then we will know if your science and my magic can work together." As they prepared to leave Amy's home, Ember suddenly flew to her shoulder, making urgent chirping sounds. Spark joined him, both dragons becoming agitated. Amy froze, listening. Then she heard it too. A sound that should not be in her forest. The mechanical rumble of vehicles. More of your people have come, she said to the humans, her voice cold with accusation. You betrayed me. No, Lily said quickly. We didn't tell anyone where we were going, I swear. Amy moved to the doorway, peering out. Spark flew up through the branches to look, then returned, making sharp, urgent sounds. Amy turned back to the humans, her face grim. Humans with weapons. Many of them coming this way. Megan looked frightened. Who would be coming here with weapons? Amy grabbed her bow and quiver. It's not your environmental people, these are hunters. They come for dragons. Amy moved quickly, gathering supplies into a small pack. Her movements were precise, showing centuries of practice. Spark and Ember circled the room anxiously, their wings creating small gusts of air that rustled the pages of open books. We must leave. Now Amy said to the humans, they are too many to fight. How do they even know about the dragons? Paul asked. We only just found out they existed ourselves. Amy slung the pack over her shoulder. There are stories. Rumors. Some humans have seen dragons flying at night and reported it. For years I have avoided hunters, but they grow more determined. She reached up to touch a carved wooden symbol on the wall. The door to her tree home sealed itself, becoming invisible from the outside. There is a place we can go, she continued. A cave system deep in the forest where the old magic is still strong. The dragons will be safe there. She looked at the three humans. And you should come too. The hunters will find you, and they will not believe you know nothing about dragons. Lily looked at Megan and Paul. We should call for help. Amy shook her head. No signals. Your phones will not work this deep in the forest anyway. The old magic interferes with your technology, and we cannot risk more humans coming. She led them through a back exit, a small door that opened to a narrow path between thick bushes. Overhead, the trees grew so dense that little sunlight penetrated, creating a twilight world of shadows. The dragons flew ahead, staying low among the trees occasionally, returning to guide them as they moved deeper into the forest. The sounds of the human world faded. The mechanical noises of vehicles were replaced by bird calls and the rustling of leaves in the wind. Amy moved silently, her feet finding secure places to step without thought. The humans followed, trying to match her quiet grace, but still creating more noise than she would have liked. Do you think they tracked us here? Megan whispered. Amy paused, looking back. Someone has betrayed the location of my forest to the hunters. I have been careful for many years, never revealing myself, never letting the dragons fly where humans could see them. Something has changed. They continued through the forest for hours, the terrain growing steeper, more rocky. Eventually, they reached a series of cliffs that rose up from the forest floor like ancient teeth. Amy led them to what appeared to be a solid rock wall. She placed her hand against the stone and whispered words in the old language. The rock shimmered, and an opening appeared. Inside was a vast cave system lit by glowing crystals that protruded from the walls. The air was warm and smelled faintly of sulfur. The dragons became excited, flying ahead into the larger chambers. This place is sacred too. My people, Amy explained as they walked deeper into the cave. The crystals hold memories and power. It is where dragons came to hatch their eggs long ago, when there were many of my kind to protect them. Paul examined the glowing crystals with fascination. These are incredible. What makes them glow like this? The old magic, Amy said. Simply, though she knew the human wanted a scientific explanation, she led them into a large central chamber, where a pool of clear water reflected the crystal light. The ceiling rose so high it disappeared into darkness. We will be safe here for now, Amy said, setting down her pack. The hunters cannot find this place. It is hidden by the old magic. Lily sat down on a smooth rock, exhaustion showing on her face. So what do we do? Now wait, we prepare. Amy replied. The star rock still comes whether hunters threaten us or not. She turned to Paul. You said you could build something to help amplify the dragon energy. You must start. Now? Paul looked around the cave uncertainly. I don't have any of my equipment. How am I supposed to build anything here? Amy walked to the wall of the cave and placed her hand on it again. Part of the rock slid away, revealing a small chamber filled with strange objects. Some appeared ancient, carved, from wood or stone. Others looked more modern, pieces of metal and glass collected over the centuries. I have gathered things from the human world, she explained, things left behind or lost. I did not always understand their purpose, but I kept them. Paul examined the collection with growing excitement. This could work, he said, picking up what looked like parts from old radios and computers. Some basic electronics, copper wire. I can work with this. While Paul sorted through the materials, Amy turned to Megan. You said your grandmother gave you a carving I made for her. Megan nodded, pulling the small wooden dragon from around her neck. May I see it? Amy asked, holding out her hand. Megan handed it over reluctantly. Amy held the carving in her palm and closed her eyes, whispering in the old language. The wooden dragon began to glow slightly. I put a small piece of the old magic in this. When I made it, Amy explained, opening her eyes, it was meant as protection for the child, but it has grown stronger, with time, with the belief your grandmother had in it. Her faith fed the magic. Lily watched with wide eyes. That's impossible. Amy smiled gently. Many impossible things exist in this world. She handed the carving back to Megan. Keep this close. It will help hide you from those who wish us harm. Suddenly the dragons became alert, their bodies tense. Ember let out a low warning sound. Amy froze, listening. They've found us, she whispered. How is that possible? The old magic should have hidden our trail. A distant sound echoed through the cave system, the unmistakable sound of human voices. They were still far away, but getting closer. Someone is guiding them. Amy said, her voice tight with anger. Someone who knows the old ways? She looked at the three humans suspiciously. Isn't us, Megan protested. We want to help you. Amy studied their faces, then nodded slowly. I believe you. But then who? She stopped suddenly, her eyes widening. There is only one who could find my home and follow us here. She turned to the dragons, who were growing increasingly agitated. My sister, Lily frowned. I thought you said you were the last of your kind in these woods. I am now, Amy said grimly. But my sister Bella left these forests 50 years ago. We quarreled. She wanted to use the old magic, to control humans, to take back our lands by force. I refused. She left, taking one of the dragon eggs with her. I never thought she would return. The voices were getting closer. We need to move deeper into the caves, Amy said quickly, gathering her things. But we cannot leave yet. Paul must finish his work on the amplifier. If the star rock strikes, there will be nothing left for anyone. Paul nodded, grabbing the most useful parts. Is there another chamber we can work in? One with an exit if we need it. Amy led them through a narrow passage that twisted deeper into the mountain system. The dragons flew ahead, their bodies glowing slightly in the darkness, providing additional light. The passage opened into a smaller chamber with a high, narrow crack in the ceiling through which a shaft of daylight entered. Here Paul can work, Amy said. I will go back and try to mislead my sister, buy us some time. No, Lily said, grabbing Amy's arm. That's too dangerous. Amy gently removed Lily's hand. I have faced danger. For 300 years, I know these caves better than anyone, even my sister. I will return. She looked at Spark and Ember. You must stay and help the human with his machine. Your energy will be needed. The dragons chirped unhappily, clearly not wanting to be separated from Amy, but they settled on rock outcroppings near where Paul was already setting up his work. Megan stepped forward. Here, take this, she said, holding out the wooden dragon carving. You said it provides protection. Amy hesitated, then accepted it with a nod. Thank you, I will return it to you when this is over. She slipped the carving into a pocket of her tunic, then turned and disappeared back into the passage, moving silently into the darkness. Left alone with the dragons, the three humans exchanged worried glances. Do you really think you can build something to help with an asteroid? Paul Lilly asked. Paul looked up from the components he was sorting. I don't know, but I'm going to try. He held up what looked like an old circuit board. There's something strange about these parts. They seem to respond to the dragons. When Spark flew closer, this started to hum. The dragons watched with curious eyes as Paul began to assemble the pieces, his hands working quickly despite the limited tools and materials. Spark occasionally flew down to inspect his progress. Ember remained vigilant, watching the passage where Amy had disappeared. Hours passed with no sign of Amy. The sounds of pursuit had faded. Perhaps she had succeeded in leading them away. Megan paced nervously while Lily helped Paul connecting wires and testing circuits. Then suddenly the dragons became alert again. Their bodies tensed, wings spreading wide. Both turned toward the passage, a low growl building in their throats. Someone was coming. The dragons moved protectively in front of the humans, their small bodies glowing brighter as they prepared to defend against whatever was coming. Paul quickly covered his half-finished device with a cloth, while Lily and Megan moved behind a large rock formation. A figure appeared in the passage entrance, tall and graceful with the same pointed ears as Amy. But this elf had darker hair cut short around her face and eyes that glowed with an unnatural red light. She wore dark clothing that seemed to absorb the light around her. At her shoulder hovered a dragon larger than Spark or Ember, with scales black as midnight and eyes that matched its master's glowing. Red, Bella said. Megan, recognizing her from Amy's description. The elf's eyes snapped to the human, a cold smile forming on her face. So my sister has made new pets. She stepped further into the chamber, the black dragon remaining close. I wondered when she would finally reveal herself to your kind. Where is Amy? Lily demanded, stepping out from behind the rocks despite Paul's attempt to pull her back. Bella laughed, the sound echoing strangely in the cave. My sister is leading my human associates on a merry chase through the lower caverns. She thinks she is so clever, but she always was too trusting. She glanced at her dragon. These caves amplify dragon senses. My friend here could track his siblings anywhere. Spark and Ember hissed, their wings fully extended now, making them look larger. The black dragon regarded them with what almost seemed like amusement. Why are you working with dragon hunters? Megan asked. The ones who want to capture your own dragon. Bella stroked the black dragon's head. They are not hunters, little human. They are collectors, people who pay very well for rare and magical things. She smiled, revealing teeth that seemed sharper than Amy's. A partnership of convenience. They help me find what I need, and in return I help them find what they want. And what do you need? Paul asked, trying to distract her while he slowly reached for a piece of metal that could serve as a weapon. The Starstone, of course, Bella replied. I'm surprised Amy hasn't told you it's why I returned after all these years. She walked further into the chamber, examining the walls with interest. The prophecies say it comes once every 1,000 years. A rock from the stars with power beyond imagining. When it strikes the earth, it releases energy that can be harnessed by those who know the old ways. She turned back to them. Amy wants to stop it to save these precious woods and all the little humans who live nearby. She was always so concerned with protection and preservation. She gestured dismissively. I see opportunity. Power change. The black dragon chirped as if in agreement. Paul frowned. You want the asteroid to hit, but that would destroy everything for hundreds of miles. Bella shrugged carelessly, and yet her eyes remained calculating. Not everything. Not those who know how to shield themselves. The old stones were not just for deflection. They can create a pocket of safety. The impact will devastate your human civilization, but those of us within the shield will survive. And when we emerge, we will reclaim what was once ours. She is insane. Lily whispered. Bella laughed again. I am visionary. I am what elves should be. Not hiding in forests, but ruling as we once did. She looked at the small dragons who were still posturing defensively. How sad that my sister's dragons are so small, their power barely awakened. Her dragon flew higher. I raised mine differently. Fed him different things. Taught him to hunger. The black dragon suddenly dove toward Spark and Ember. Both smaller dragons scattered, but the black dragon was faster, catching Ember in its claws. The red dragon squealed in pain as they tumbled across the chamber floor. Stop. Megan shouted. Bella raised her hand and the black dragon released Ember. The red dragon limped back to the humans. His wing bent at an odd angle. Spark landed beside him, making distressed sounds. Now, Bella, said her voice suddenly businesslike. Where is Amy's device? She looked directly at Paul. I know my sister would try to stop the Starstone. I know she would need something to amplify the power of her young dragons. I can sense it in this room. Paul stood in front of his covered work. No idea what you're talking about. Bella sighed dramatically. Then I suppose my dragon will have to persuade you. She raised her hand again. Suddenly there was a whistling sound and an arrow embedded itself in the stone wall inches from Bella's head. Everyone turned to see Amy standing in another entrance to the chamber. Her bow still raised for another shot. Step away from my friends. Sister Amy said, her voice cold and hard. Bella smiled, not seeming concerned. By the near miss always. The dramatic entrance, little sister. I was just getting acquainted with your new pets. They are not pets, Amy said. They are friends, something you would not understand. She stepped further into the chamber. Spark flew to her, immediately circling her head before returning to the injured Ember. Bella watched the dragon's movement, her eyes calculating. You still think too small, Amy. The Starstone comes in 2 days now. We could harness its power together. You and I. The last of our kind. Amy shook her head. I will stop it as our ancestors did before us. These woods, these humans, they deserve to live. Bella laughed. They deserve nothing. They took our lands, drove our people away, hunted dragons to near extinction, and you defend them? Her face hardened. You were always weak. The black dragon suddenly launched itself at Amy. She dropped and rolled, coming up with another arrow. Knocked. The arrow flew, but the black dragon twisted in midair, avoiding it. Bella raised her hands and spoke words in the old language. A bolt of energy shot toward Amy. Amy pulled a small object from her pocket. Megan's wooden dragon carving. The energy struck it and dissipated. Amy spoke her own words of power, and the carving glowed brighter. She threw it into the air where it hovered, spinning. Bella looked surprised. You always did have a talent for embedding magic in objects, she said, a useless talent for parlor tricks. While the sisters faced each other, Paul had uncovered his device and was working frantically to connect the final pieces. Lily and Megan moved to help him. Spark had flown back to them, hovering over the device, while Ember watched from the ground, still unable to fly with his injured wing. We need more power, Paul whispered. The crystals in the cave walls aren't enough. Bella and Amy circled each other, both speaking words of power in the old language. Lights flashed between them as magic collided. The black dragon darted in occasionally, trying to get past Amy's defenses. But the wooden carving, still hovering in the air, seemed to create a shield protecting her. I don't want to fight you, Bella, Amy said. I never did. You chose your side long ago, Bella replied. When you decided humans were worth saving. Her next spell hit the ground at Amy's feet, sending her stumbling backward. The black dragon seized the opportunity, diving straight for her. Amy raised her hands defensively, but she was off balance. Suddenly, Spark shot across the chamber faster than any of them had seen. Him move. He collided with the black dragon in midair, knocking it aside. The much smaller blue dragon should have been no match for the larger one, but Spark glowed with intense light, his scales shimmering with power. Spark, Paul said in amazement, has drawing energy from the device. Indeed, the machine Paul had built was humming with power, glowing with the same blue light as Spark. The crystals in the cave walls were responding too, pulsing in rhythm. The Starstone comes, Bella shouted. It approaches. Even now I can feel it. Amy looked up at the crack in the ceiling where daylight had been visible earlier. Now a red glow was visible. The sky outside turning strange colors. Were too late. Lily said, The asteroid. No, Amy replied. We have time still, but only minutes. She looked at Paul's device. Is it ready? Paul nodded. I think so. But I don't know how to activate it. Amy moved toward the device. Bella lunged for her, but Spark and the Black Dragon were engaged in aerial combat between them, distracting her. She reached the machine, placing her hands on it, and began speaking in the old language. The device hummed louder, blue light pouring from it. Amy looked at Spark, who was still fighting. The power needs to be directed, she said. He cannot do it alone. Ember limped forward, chirping determinedly. No, Amy said. You're injured. The red dragon ignored her, climbing onto the device. His injured body began to glow, matching the blue light from Spark and the machine. Paul looked at his readouts. It isn't enough, he said. We need more power. Something to connect it to the ley lines you mentioned. Amy looked around desperately. The cave crystals were helping, but not enough. Megan stepped forward. What about the wooden carving, she asked. It's still floating there, full of old magic, right? Amy looked at where the carving still hovered, deflecting Bella's magical attacks. Yes, she said. She rushed to grab it, bringing it back to the device. Bella screamed in rage, no, and lunged forward, but it was too late. Amy placed the carving atop the machine. The wooden dragon seemed to melt into the device. The glow intensified, blinding everyone in the cave. A beam of blue light shot upward through the crack in the ceiling. Spark broke away from the black dragon and flew into the beam, his small body becoming a conduit for the energy Ember remained on the device, feeding it. Power outside the sky turned from red to blue as the beam expanded, forming a dome of energy that spread outward. The asteroid comes, Bella shouted, trying to reach the device, but the energy pushed her back. Amy stood firm, her hands still on the machine, channeling the old magic through her body into the device, into the dragons, into the shield. Forming above, the cave began to shake, dust and small rocks falling from the ceiling. The red glow intensified, then suddenly there was a flash of light visible through the crack so bright it left everyone temporarily blinded. When the dust settled and they could see again, the cave was different. The crystals in the walls still glowed, but with a softer, steadier light. The machine Paul had built was smoking slightly. Parts of it melted beyond recognition. Spark lay on the ground near it, his small body no longer glowing, his blue scales now pale, almost gray. Ember was beside him, equally still, his injured wing now looking even worse. Amy rushed to them, kneeling beside the small dragons. No, 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 she whispered, her hands moving over their bodies, searching for signs of life. The power was too much for them. She began speaking rapidly in the old language, her hands glowing faintly green as she tried to channel healing energy into them. Paul, Lily, and Megan watched in silence, unsure what to do. The cave continued to settle, occasional small rocks falling, but the major shaking had stopped. What happened? Megan finally asked. Did it work? Paul moved to the crack in the ceiling, standing on tiptoe to peek out. Yes, he said. In amazement, I can see the sky, it's normal blue. But off to the east there's smoke, a huge cloud of it, but it's miles away. The asteroid, it must have been deflected partially, not completely repelled like Amy hoped, but enough to change its path. It hit, but far from here. Amy didn't seem to hear them, all her attention focused on the dragons. Her healing magic flowed into them, but there was no response. She looked up, tears streaming down her face. They're gone, she said, her voice breaking. They gave everything. Bella laughed from where she had fallen against the far wall of the cave. Such drama, sister, she said, rising unsteadily to her feet. Her black dragon was nowhere to be seen. You deflected the starstone. The power is lost. The humans are safe. She made the way. Last words sound like a curse. Amy stood slowly, facing her sister. I didn't do it alone, she said. The humans helped. Their science combined with our magic. And the dragons. She looked back at the still forms of Spark and Ember. They sacrificed themselves. Bella sneered, always so sentimental about lesser creatures. She brushed dust from her clothing. Well, I suppose I'll have to wait another 1,000 years for my chance. She looked around. The humans who came with me are likely dead, crushed in the lower caverns. When the mountain shook, My own dragon has fled, sensing defeat. Her eyes narrowed. But this isn't over, sister. There are other ways to power other magics to harness. She began backing toward the passage entrance. You stay here with your dead dragons, and your human friends play guardian to your precious forest. I have larger plans. Amy took a step toward her, then another light caught her eye. Ember was glowing again, but differently. A soft red pulse, very faint. Then Spark too began to glow a faint blue. They're alive. Megan gasped. Amy rushed back to them, kneeling again, her hands returning to their bodies. The healing magic flowed stronger now, as if responding to the signs of life. The dragons chirped weakly, their eyes opening. Paul looked at the device, which was still smoking. How did they survive? That much power should have. Amy looked up, smiling through her tears. The wooden carving, she said. It did more than channel power. It protected them just as it was meant to do. She stroked Spark's head gently. Megan's grandmother's belief made it stronger than I ever could have. Bella had stopped watching the scene with clear frustration. You still don't understand, do you? She said. This changes nothing. The humans will continue to destroy our world, cut down our forest, hunt dragons. To them we are myths, creatures to be studied or captured or killed. She gestured at Lily, Paul, and Megan. These three may be different, but they are rare exceptions. Amy looked up at her sister. I think you are wrong. The world is changing. Humans are beginning to remember the old ways, to understand what they have lost. She stood carefully, gathering Spark in her arms, while Megan rushed forward to gently pick up Ember. These humans helped save their own kind and ours. They built a bridge between science and magic, something our ancestors would have thought impossible. Bella looked at the three humans, her eyes still cold with contempt. You really believe they will protect you? Protect this forest once they know what lies within it? Lily stepped forward. The Environmental Protection Agency already protects this forest, she said. But now we have even more reason to ensure it stays safe. Paul nodded slowly. And the readings I took, the energy patterns I recorded. There is so much we could learn here. Not to exploit, but to understand. Megan smiled at Amy, looking down at Ember in her arms. And now we know dragons are real. Who wouldn't want to protect them? Bella shook her head. They will betray you, sister, as humans. Always have. She turned and disappeared into the passage before anyone could stop her. Let her go, Amy said. She has lost her dragon for now. She is no threat without him. They made their way carefully through the cave system and back to the forest outside. The sun was setting, casting long shadows through the trees. In the distance, smoke was still visible from where the asteroid had struck, but it was many miles away. The forest is safe, Amy said, looking around at the ancient trees, the animals, the plants. Everything survived in your home? Lily asked. Amy nodded. My tree stands, I can feel it. The old magic protected this place as it was meant to. She looked down at Spark, who was regaining some color in his scales, resting in her arms. But we have all paid a price. They walked through the twilight forest until they reached Amy's tree home. Everything was as they had left it, though a few branches had broken in the impact tremors. They went inside, and Amy carefully placed Spark and Ember on soft cushions near the hearth. The dragons curled together, their breathing steadier now. Will they recover? Megan asked. Still worried in time, Amy said. They are young and strong. Their magic will replenish. She looked at the three humans. But now we must decide what happens next. What do you mean? Paul asked. Amy gestured around her home at the books, the strange objects, the evidence of magic. You have seen things few humans have seen in 1,000 years. You know I exist. You know dragons exist. She looked at them. Seriously? What will you tell your people? The three humans exchanged glances. Lily spoke first. My report will say, we found an undocumented ecosystem with rare species that need protection. I will recommend expanding the protected area and limiting all human access. Paul nodded. I can write up my findings on the unusual electromagnetic properties of the region. Suggest it needs study, but careful, controlled study. Megan smiled. My grandmother kept your secret her whole life. I'm pretty good at keeping secrets, too. Amy looked at each of them, studying their faces. Then she nodded. I believe you. But there is more we could do, she said. The bridge you spoke of between magic and science. It doesn't have to end here. What do you mean? Lily asked. Amy walked to her bookshelf, pulling down an ancient volume. The world is changing, as I said. Humans are remembering the old ways or discovering new ones that echo them. She opened the book, showing diagrams of the ley lines of energy. Perhaps it is time for elves to stop hiding. Perhaps there is a middle path between hiding in the shadows as I have done, and seeking domination as my sister wishes. Paul looked excited. You mean a collaboration? Research, shared knowledge. Amy nodded carefully. There are other forests, other places where the old magic still lives. Other guardians, perhaps not of my kind, but who remember the old ways. There are threats beyond asteroids. Changes in the world that neither humans nor elves can face. Alone, Megan looked at the dragons now sleeping peacefully. Would you leave this forest? Amy smiled. No. This is my home. But I would open it carefully to those who wish to learn to protect. She looked at them. I trust you three. You saved my home, my friends, yourselves. You used magic and science together as it should be. The humans smiled back, feeling the weight of her trust. So what now? Lily asked. Amy closed the book. Now you rest. You have earned it. Tomorrow we begin planning this bridge between our worlds. It must be built, carefully, stone by stone. As night fell fully outside, the tree home glowed with warm light. The small dragons slept, healing from their ordeal. The humans shared a meal with Amy, listening to her stories of the old days of elves and dragons, of magic and wonder. And somewhere in the forest, a black dragon flew alone, searching for its mistress. Its red eyes glowed in the darkness, a reminder that not all bridges lead to peace. Some lead to new conflicts, new challenges. But that was a problem for another day. For now, the forest was safe. The old magic flowed strongly through the trees, through the earth. And for the first time in centuries, an elf welcomed humans as friends, as allies, in a world that needed both magic and science. Both the old ways and the new. Amy looked at her sleeping dragons, at her new human friends, and felt hope for herself, for her forest, for the world. Perhaps her sister was wrong. Perhaps humans and elves, dragons and scientists could find a way forward together. Perhaps the bridge once built would last. Only time would tell, and Amy had plenty of time.